Your movie sucked. You're a robot. Alright, welcome to our final episode of here of the Countdown to Force Awakens, Star Wars Episode 6 Retro Review Show. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. It was released in 1983. It was the conclusion to this original trilogy. It's supposed to give all the answers. Everything was supposed to be answered. Everything was supposed to be a final conclusion. And I was a kid when this came out and everything, and I remember going to see this. I don't remember if I was standing in line for a long period of time. But I guess because, episode 1, it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
I think that I remember standing in line for 6 hours more than I do these other, the original trilogy.
Are you basically implying it's like childbirth and women, just once they have the kid, oh my God, it's such an amazing experience, unless it's a bad kid, oh my God, 47 hours later. Gonna suffer through that to keep your rear end out of jail. That's all I do.
Oh God, you nailed that right now in the head when it comes to that. I'm a father of 3. Imagine how my wife feels.
Nephew and 2 nieces.
No.
I know your pain.
But anyway, we start off with basically Darth Vader coming to a newly constructing, or in the process of being constructed, Death Star.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be more powerful than the original. So, Vader gets on there, and there's the Death Star commander's there. Of course, he's scared out of his wits and everything that Vader's coming on board. Apparently, there have been problems. The building, the construction's being delayed. That he's saying that I need more men, and then he goes, well, then perhaps you can tell the Emperor when he arrives. So now you know that you're going to finally get to see the Emperor after being spoken about through the last 2 movies, and you get a small glimpse in Episode 5 through a hologram where he. So the only glimpse you ever got of the Emperor was in Episode 5 when him and Vader, he was a hologram and he was talking to Vader about Luke being a new threat to them. So again, you get that anticipation that you're finally going to get to see him. And now you go to Tatooine, you see R2-D2 and C-3PO, they're walking to Jabba's palace, and they're saying, oh, poor Orlando and Chewbacca never returned from this awful place. Now you're wondering, great, have they been killed off camera? Which, I doubt it, because you've probably seen the trailers and you've seen that they're in certain scenes that have been shown. So, but it was just, seeing R2-D2 and C-3PO, it was a little bit reminiscent of them back on Tatooine and everything from the original film. It was like a throwback. And a quick note and everything, not many people, true Star Wars fans probably did, that Steven Spielberg was originally the original choice to direct Return of the Jedi. I mean, after the aftermath of Empire, the MPA and the Directors Guild and everything, they sued George Lucas. They fined him and tried to find his director, Irvin Kersh, on Empire. And everything, a lot of stuff, though Empire made so much freaking money, there was a lot of complications that happened after that. And then, so, Lucas left the Directors Guild. And so it made it hard for him to get, Spielberg to come on and everything, because there'd be complications because, they're not associated with any of the unions. But he got Richard Marquand, who did a World War II drama called Eye of the Dragon or something. I can't remember the alphabet, but so he was picked to direct it. Now, everything else, when it came, for some reason, Return of the Jedi was a great film.
Oh yeah.
But the problem with a film that's following a great second film, the middle chapter, it's really hard. Dark Knight Rises is a prime example. Though Dark Knight Rises is a good movie, it just wasn't the Dark Knight.
It's what is that old adage? I'd hate to follow that guy. It was exactly that. I mean,
who would follow Jimi Hendrix?
There you go.
So
perfect example. It's just one of those. You have just such a monster movie. the anticipation for Empire Strikes Back was just amazing, you know? And the fact that it was such a good movie, even though it hyped you up for number 6, Return of the Jedi, at the same time, it was just such a good movie, had so much action, so much going on in it. Of course, the bomb dropping of Vader being Luke's father.
Yep.
I mean, that's hard to top. What are they going to tell you that's going to get you that same shock, that same thrill as Vader telling Luke that, you know, I mean, there's just barely any way to do it.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, the droids, they go into Jabba's palace and everything, and you meet Jabba the Hutt. Again, you get to see one of these characters mentioned in 2 films, but you finally get to see what they look like. So, you know, they're there presenting a proposal to Jabba about, you know, freeing Han Solo. And, you know, there's a hologram that R2 shows Jabba the Hutt and everything, saying that, you know, I offer these droids, they're both hardworking.
Skywalker full Jedi gear. Although I found it interesting that he was completely in black.
Yeah.
You know, something that you kind of associated with the Sith up until then, you know? You saw Vader in black, you know, the Emperor wore a big black cloak.
Well, it's kind of like Anakin. Anakin had like a different type of Jedi getup.
Yeah.
And it was like leather, dark brown and everything, very dark toned colors and everything for Anakin's Jedi getup and everything. But, you know, Luke, I think because, you know, Luke, because of the events of Empire, I think probably had darkened him a little bit, you know, disturbed him somewhat and everything. And then there's a deleted scene where he's working on his new lightsaber, which means that his skills, he has completed his skills, you know, when you can build your own lightsaber. But the thing was that when you know, Jabba says there won't be no bargain and everything, I like Solo where he's at, and he's still frozen in carbonite and everything, hanging on Jabba's wall.
He mentions it's his favorite decoration.
Yeah. And then of course, you know, you go back and you see all this. They go back after they, you know, C-3PO and them are being processed or whatever you want to call it and everything. And, you know, Jabba's got this band, you know, the Max Rebo band. They're playing and everything, you know, of course, you know, they do what they call the Jedi Rock if you watch the special editions. But they, you know, while they're playing that song and everything, after Jabba's finished, killed his slave and everything, you know, and getting eaten by Rancor, all of a sudden they hear this blast and everything, and it's this bounty hunter, this little bitty bounty hunter, I think called Bubbleshish is the name of it.
Not sure, I can't.
It was hard. It's always been hard to pronounce, but they've got Chewbacca. They've captured Chewbacca and everything, and then of course, you know, remember the line, the mighty Chewbacca.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, you know, the little bounty hunter's got this thermal detonator, and of course everybody's kind of scared off and everything, except for Boba Fett and Jabba and everything. And they make a deal, you know, Chewie gets taken off, and while Chewie's being taken off and everything, you see that Lando's in hiding, you know, he's pretending to be one of the guards. And then all of a sudden, you know...
Hard to look like a pimp when you're in rusty, sandy gear.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, they cuts back, and everybody's sleeping and everything in Jabba's palace, and all of a sudden you see this bounty hunter pop up again. And all of a sudden, you know, you start noticing the walk, it's a female type of strut.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they start walking up to Han Solo in the carbonite. And then all of a sudden, you know, they bring it down and they do all these little gizmos, you know, and then all of a sudden you see the outline of Han and the frozen block turning red, and all of a sudden he defrosts and he falls, finds out that he's blind a little bit and everything, and he's asking who this person is, and it's Leia, you know. And then they're trying to get out of there, and then you hear, oh. And he's like, I know that laugh. And then, you know, Jabba knew. You know, he knew what was going on. And, you know, everybody's
well, I'm sure he thought at some point, especially once he saw Chewbacca, he knew somebody was coming for Han.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the droids show up, you know, accept these as a gift, and then he sees Chewbacca, you know, he probably just saw a stage being set.
Yeah.
Just figured something's going down.
Oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden, after everybody's been, you know, captured and everything, and, you know, Leia's put up against Jabba and everything, and that tongue just sticks out and goes,
Yeah.
And so you're like, ugh, yucky. But,
yucky wouldn't have been the use of the word. I mean, that was just...
I'm trying to keep it toned down a little bit, you know.
That was the equivalent of watching a really, really, really fat guy hit on a chick at a bar, you know, just...
Oddly enough, we've both seen that.
All he was missing was the chest hair and the gold chain, you know, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anyway, but of course, you know, you come back and you see this dark room and everything, and then the Jabba's doors open up and everything. You see this little silhouette of a figure in black and everything. It looks like he's wearing a robe, and it's Luke walking, you know, inside the building and everything. And all of a sudden, you know, the Gamorrean guards try to stop him, and he's force choking them, which is a Sith thing. You know, you never see a Jedi do it. And so...
Well, I mean, they don't really cover, you know, at the time, they didn't really cover what force abilities went with what class, you know. It was just, I think especially seeing Luke all in black, like you had mentioned, it seemed like he had just darkened a bit. Seeing him be able to use force choke, having him offer up 2 droids that, you know, were friends to him. It just seemed like things might have been taking a darker turn. Which, you know, was really, really good in the movie. I liked the fact that it was kind of showing you everybody changing with their experiences.
So, you know, he also approaches Jabba's room and everything by telling Bib Fortuna and everything. He basically does the Jedi mind trick to sneak his way into Jabba's throne room. And then all of a sudden, you know, he's like trying to tell, we'll give Captain Solo and the Wookiee to me. And coming to find out that, you know, Jedi mind tricks don't work on Jabba and everything. And then all of a sudden, you know, Luke with the Force gets a gun and tries to threaten him and everything. And then Jabba, you know, hits the thing and down he goes into the Rancor pit. And so then you get, of course, you finally get to see this Rancor and everything. It's like this mutated potato. And
you know, as it looked... It was interesting. I mean, it looked almost non-threatening, and at the same time, there was a grotesqueness about it.
That was like a gremlin, or deformed gremlin.
Without the ears.
Without
the ears. But, I mean, the size, the claws, its demeanor, and the teeth were basically the only things that made you look at this thing and go, okay, that could probably eat somebody.
And when you see it eating that Gamorrean guard and everything, you know, it chowing down pretty hard on it. And
well, bacon. You know, nobody passes up bacon. I don't care what galaxy you're in.
But of course, you know, and the puppeteering again, great puppeteering in this movie. And of course, if you watch Clerks and everything, they're like, you know, Jedi is just full of Muppets, you know. But
you never once saw you know, Kermit handling a lightsaber. Never once. Thank God.
Yes, you did and everything. And Muppet Babies when they did a Star Wars.
Muppet Babies, but not in... If I would have seen Kermit the Frog in Return of the Jedi, no.
But that makes another thing. Another great puppeteering and everything was Salacious Crumb. The little guy that sat with Jabba. I forgot to mention that and everything. He made that whole time in Jabba's and everything. His presence there made it, you know...
That creepy little laugh. Good Lord.
I mean, that was my favorite part of the whole Jabba scene, the whole segment of Jabba and everything, the whole first act and everything was, you know, Salacious Crumb and everything. He made it all, you know, accessible and easy to watch. But of course, you know, Luke, you know, he defeats the Rancor, and of course you see the Rancor keeper crying and everything. Cause
at first, when I was a kid, I could not tell if that was a woman or a guy. I really couldn't.
You know what's in here?
I couldn't tell if it was just a really fat, effeminate guy, or, you know, if it was a woman. I really couldn't tell. Woman with facial hair. I didn't know. I didn't know. It was a galaxy far, far away. I had no idea.
Okay, well, I think we just finished you.
Probably. To fat women with facial hair.
The whole
I'm kind of
sentence.
sorry. To fat, effeminate guys, man up. That's the apology for the year. I didn't stretch before that. Oh.
Okay. You feel okay now?
I'm probably going to have to go to therapy later. But yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. Anyway, so, you know, now Jabba's all enraged and everything. He's going to go ahead and execute him. And so you get to the Starlight Pit. And of course, Luke's supposed to already have a plan and everything. And then you get to the Starlight Pit, and all of a sudden, R2's going up to the top of the ship, and kind of Boba Fett looks over like,
Yeah.
Of course, being the greatest bounty hunter in the universe, he's got those skills. And, of course, Luke's on the, it's kind of done in a pirate type of style and everything.
That was pretty cool. I mean,
Walking the plank.
Yeah, it was very reminiscent of that.
But then, of course, Luke's standing there, and then he sees R2, and he does this salute thing.
Yeah.
And then you see R2 open up one of his lids, and all of a sudden Luke jumps off, turns around, does a flip, and R2 shoots out the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was the stupidest R2-D2 toy that Hasbro Kenner made.
Nobody held on to that lightsaber.
Nobody. No, the thing is, you put that thing in, and you try to get to the lever. Before you get to the lever, the damn thing shoots out, and of course you lose the lightsaber. And then, of course, Luke doesn't catch it.
Yeah.
It's impossible. It's a stupid toy, okay?
There's that one guy that timed that perfectly. He crunched the numbers,
He must have done something. Plus, okay, and to get off the thing, they did a R254, the little red droid from episode 4, when Kenner started doing the Star Wars figures again in '95, and they made them a canon, okay? I'm going off my little rant here and everything. Stick with the basics when you make these figures and everything. Do not change anything. We don't need 700 more Darth Vaders either, okay? Give us every character we can possibly get, alright? Okay? And the same, don't make any more Darth Mauls. You've made 2 so far, okay? Black Series and a regular one. We're fine, okay?
He wants to be able to make the whole cantina scene, get as many lightsabers as possible. He's looking to set this up in his house. He doesn't want the same toy over and over.
In my shed, not my house.
If you get that many damn toys, you're going to need to set them up.
I did have that many toys. Well, eventually we're going to show you, once we can and everything, I'm going to show you those pictures of my Star Wars collection in '99, so.
And then unveil the bat shed.
Oh yeah, well that'll be in a couple months.
A giant bat fan is going to take a giant bat crap. Oh my! I'm going to need a minute.
Anyway, back to the movie in hand. So they start fighting and everything. Lando reveals who he is, and everybody's going crazy and everything. Luke's shooting, trying to deflect things.
Lando's the only one of Jabba's men with a mustache.
Yeah.
They didn't see that as anything. Yeah.
And he's the one. He's having problems with one guy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they shoot the thing. Shoot at the little sail barge and everything. He falls off. He's hanging by a rope, and then, Boba Fett tries to shoot over and everything, tries to capture Luke, and then Luke, deflects a beam, one of his guns and everything, and then all of a sudden, Luke jumps over to another ship and everything, that's coming nearby, and he's fighting them, and then Boba Fett gets up, and he's about to aim at, at Luke, and then all of a sudden Han's like, listening to Chewie, he's like, Boba Fett, where? And he turns around, he hits Boba Fett. The greatest bounty hunter in the world dies stupidly.
Yeah. From a blind man.
Yeah. And he falls into the Starlight Pit and everything. And just, that thing must have had a great meal that day. That probably been the most ate forever.
It was probably very, very enthused about that. Of course, it was this scene that led to one of the biggest controversies in Star Wars fandom, whether or not Boba Fett escaped the Starlight Pit.
In the original expanded universe storyline, he did, but who knows now when everything's kind of been rebooted in a way.
Very true.
But Leia, she's on the sail barge, still in her...
Slave Leia.
Yeah, Slave Leia. Go for it.
Indeed, yeah.
Have your moment.
Good Lord Almighty. It was mentioned in an article recently that she didn't use what the business calls tit tape.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the golden bikini, and there were wardrobe malfunctions. Yeah. Why couldn't I have been there? I'd have helped.
I don't think you were born yet.
Unfortunately, that's what I'm saying. Time machine, slave Leia, help. That's what I'm saying, alright? But good Lord Almighty, now, because Star Wars is part of Disney, they're not going to be producing any more slave Leia figures.
It's sad.
Yeah.
I wish I kept mine.
Well, no, you just think, how many teen boys were ushered into manhood just by seeing slave Leia?
And it's an incomplete collection. Okay, you got the Black Series. That's for adult collectors. Come on, Disney. Anyway, So Leia, she's on the sail bar and everything. She chokes out Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
And then
Which, that was a lot of neck.
Yeah,
That's a lot of,
yeah, and that's a lot of strength too. That little bitty thing. Carrie Fisher's what, like 95 pounds wet?
I'd say around there.
She's a short little thing too.
Not even a knee in the back or nothing, just full arm strength.
Yeah.
Good Lord Almighty.
But so she chokes up Jabba the Hutt, kills him. Her and R2 gets loose and everything, and then of course you see C-3PO.
Yeah.
He's down on the ground, Salacious Chrome's crawling out of his eye and everything. R2 shocks him and everything. Salacious jumps up into the top of the ceiling, and so the whole time, C-3PO and R2 are trying to escape, and C-3PO's like, it's impossible for me to jump, and he gets knocked over by R2, and R2 just does that, falls right over. And
The
then
only two characters to have knees worse than Darth Vader.
Yeah.
C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah.
One had knees that didn't bend, the other didn't have knees at all.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, Luke's like still trying to fight around the other Jabba's prisoner or Jabba's guards and stuff like that. He gets shot in the hand, and then he gets back at that guy and everything. All of a sudden, he gets to Leia and like turns the gun. She has the gun turns towards the deck of the ship and everything. And before they're about to swing off into the other ship after Lando's been saved by Han, they got everything all situated. He, with his foot and everything, hits the trigger and everything, and starts blowing up the ship and everything. And then they pick up the droids out of the sand and go off to wherever the Millennium Falcon had been landing. So all of a sudden, everybody's back together. And so Luke is in the X-Wing. He looks at his hand. You see the robotics inside of it and everything, so he decides to put a glove on. And all of a sudden, he tells that he has a promise to keep to an old friend towards R2. So, meaning that he's going to be going back to Dagobah. And then after that scene, there's the back of the Death Star. And it's basically the entire Imperial Army seems to be there. And it's the Emperor's arrival. So you finally get to see the Emperor and everything. He's walking down.
And it's almost disappointing. I mean, you hear Emperor, even though you got to see a glimpse of him in 5 through the hologram, you see an old man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was slightly disappointing, and at the same time, you were just like, he's this old and he rules over.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I mean, it's kind of like Yoda now and everything.
Yeah.
Yoda's this little bitty thing with the cane, but he's the greatest Jedi.
Yeah.
And, he's, when he needs the Force, he uses it to his full potential and everything, and then when he's no longer needed, he needs that cane to walk with, as does the Emperor and everything. And it's just, it's like, he's like that spooky elderly man that lives down the street.
I never lived down the street from an elderly man in a cloak, so I don't know. There was an old guy in a bathrobe. That was a different kind of creepy.
Huh?
That was a different kind of creepy.
No, it's close.
I don't think there were...
A robe and a cloak and everything can be considered.
I'm talking old man, t-shirt tucked into the underpants, alright? House shoes. Blue robe.
Oh, he had the robe open?
Yeah.
Oh,
Scariest thing I've ever seen in childhood. Yeah.
Did he bend with the robe still around, or did he bend down heel first up front?
He leaned like this, kind of just parting the robe and just leaned back. How's it going?
Oh, he did the frontal groin stretch?
Well, I think he was trying to stretch his groin, but his gut was in the way.
Really?
So, yeah, it was terrifying childhood memory. I wish I would lived down the street from the Emperor. I could have dealt with that. At least he was fully clothed, okay?
So he's walking down from the Imperial shuttle, and Vader's like, the Death Star will be complete on time.
Yeah.
You've done well, Lord Vader. And he says, like, I understand that you're still wanting to pursue your search for Skywalker. Don't worry, he's going to be coming to us. So, you get back, and Luke is there at Dagobah, and he's talking to Yoda. And you remember some of the scenes from that, don't you?
Yeah, it was, that was kind of the moment at which the movie took kind of a sadder turn. I mean, he comes back to Dagobah, and he notices that Yoda's not as spry, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And sure enough, within just a couple of minutes from there, you see Yoda in bed and he actually passes on.
Yeah, and before that and everything, he finally asks the big question.
Yeah.
Is Darth Vader my father? And he's like, your father, he is, and he's like, told you, did he? And then, it's like, Yoda's trying to tell him, like, you should have stayed, you were not prepared for this burden. This is why we kept you from them, or tried to. And of course, he's like, before he's dying and everything, he's like saying there's another Skywalker. Well, once Yoda passes, he says, Luke, there is another Skywalker.
Yeah.
Right before he dies. So Luke walks out of Yoda's little shack and everything, and he sees Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan, basically, why didn't you tell me,
Yeah.
And he basically says, it's basically all a different point of view, and, just the truth was different. Vader did kill your father in a way by becoming Darth Vader, Anakin becoming Darth Vader. And then he says, the other, he said, Yoda spoke of another. The other was your twin sister, and you find out Luke has a sister.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Luke's thinking and everything, he realizes Leia's his sister.
Yeah.
Which of course, makes you want to go, if I was me, I'd be like, Leia's my sister. Oh shit.
Yeah. Scrubbing of the tongue.
Yeah.
Picking up some of that sludge from the swamp and popping it in there,
But anyway, he said, Obi-Wan said, your feelings serve you well. Bury your feelings because they can be served, the Emperor. So they come back, the Rebel Alliance have all come together, and Mon Mothma, who's the head of the Rebel Alliance, saying that these Bothan spies that got plans for the Death Star, and we're going to attack. That General Calrissian, they gave, now Lando's got a cooler cape.
Yeah.
He's got a cape that stays on. He doesn't got one of those makeshift capes and everything that'll fall off. He's got a real.
He's got
cape.
epaulets.
Yeah. You can tell right there. Look at that cape. That's a cape back and we've been proud of. So
it's gray.
Yeah.
That man might not have been into the gray.
It's a little dark, black and little gray.
I can see that.
But then Han Solo's going to be in command of the ground troops and everything. Lando's going to be in charge of, he's going to be flying the Millennium Falcon into battle and everything against the Death Star.
Yeah.
So, jumpstart all that and everything. You get Admiral Akbar, and they're showing that he's talking about the details of the Death Star and basically how everything's gonna go and what's supposed to go. And Luke finally joins up and everything, and everybody's all together. Han and is like, when they're in the bay, hangar bay, he's like, you can fly the ship. I want you to take her. She's the fastest ship. Just don't leave a scratch. They're like, good luck. They've made up. The bro system's back.
Yeah, it's one of those things that only your bro can betray you, and you turn around and go, okay. There was a woman involved. All right, I can forgive you, but she still sucks.
Yeah. But so they Han and Leia and Luke and Chewbacca and the droids, they get into this Imperial shuttle and everything. They sneak on the planet, and then Lando and them is going to be leading the fleet over to the to attack the Death Star. So they get onto the Luke and them, they get onto the planet Endor, or the moon of Endor, and they realize there's biker scouts everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get into this back room, this back door to this
bunker.
Bunker and everything to knock down the shield that's covering that's protecting the new Death Star. So
which I found it weird that the shield generator was on a planet.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of on the Death Star. I find that a design flaw. I call BS on that one.
Well, maybe they hadn't installed yet. They had to.
Well, obviously it was running if they were worried about the shield. So
maybe they just wanted
should have choking the hell out of somebody. Just you left what where? No. Just go ahead and die now.
But of course, Han and Chewie's like, hey, trust me, we can handle this. We can sneak in there. And then of course, Han steps on a twig, and it alerts everybody.
I was twig in the history of cinema, right?
Yeah.
There,
And then all of a sudden, everybody's fighting the speeder bike guys. The scouter troopers and everything. They get onto their speeder bikes and fly off, and then Leia and Luke jump onto the same one and they go after them and then get this really cool speeder bike chase through the woods, which was actually the redwoods up in Washington, wasn't it? You believe that?
I believe so.
And you get this really cool chase and everything throughout there, and then all of a sudden, Luke and Leia are separating and they get on their own speeder bikes, and you think, while Leia's chasing after one, Luke's going after two more, and then, Leia gets knocked off her speeder and knocked out and everything, and then the speeder that crashes, and then the biker scout, which is funny, he looks behind and everything, and then turns around and he crashes into a tree.
Yeah.
And then Luke jumps off his, and he, of course, knocks out, the speeder guys with his lightsaber, and then walks back to the guys, Han and the others, and then they, realize that Leia's hasn't returned. So,
Yeah.
And while Leia's laying down unconscious, she gets woken up by this Ewok, Wicked, which was played by Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
Which he ends up, gets used in a lot of other George Lucas properties later on in the decade.
Oh yeah.
And so you get to meet the Ewoks, these cute little cuddly little fur balls.
I don't like Ewoks.
Neither do I. But anyway, oddly enough, after Return of the Jedi, George Lucas did the Ewok Adventure.
Yeah.
2 TV movies were kind of like an alternate universe type of thing. I never really knew how they would fit into the Star Wars universe.
I would have rather seen Wookiees.
Yeah, well, that was one of the original ideas.
I would have rather have seen Wookiees than a bunch of running around teddy bears that look like the bastard children of Teddy Ruxpin.
So Leia wakes up and she finds, this little Ewok,
Yeah.
She makes friends with him, and of course another speeder guy, scout, catches up with him, and Wicked, catches him off guard, and then she knocks him out and takes care of both of them, and they decide to walk off, and he shows her where she lives, and then everybody else is looking for Leia, and they get caught up by the Ewoks, and then C-3PO, after they are caught in this big net and everything, they all falling down and everything, and then when they all get up and everything, start to see, the Ewoks popping up and everything, and then all emerge out of the woods and everything in a type of camouflage. And, C-3PO pops up and they're all bowing to him. And so they all decide to take him to, their village that's up in the trees called the Ewok Village, which was one of my favorite play sets when I was a kid. And
you hate Ewoks.
Well, it was cool. It was a cool play set.
It was a cool playset.
So, and then of
I
course...
could have lived in the Ewok village, I just wouldn't want to see the Ewoks.
Yeah.
Play their landlord.
Yeah. And then of course everybody's, tied up, and Han Solo's going to be basically cooked, served as...
Yeah.
And that kind of makes you, it makes you fear kind of Ewoks in a way,
A little bit, that they just go straight to eating, though.
Yeah.
Not wondering where they came from, not dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and then, Luke's trying to tell C-3PO, he's like, tell him that you can stop him with your magic. He's like, well, what magic? Next thing you know, C-3PO is starting to float, and it's Luke, using the Force to make C-3PO look like this god that these guys think that he is, So they all get let loose, and C-3PO is telling them the story of everything that has led them up to this point to the Endor. Which is, something, kind of, a full circle with C-3PO, because in the first one he says he's not much of a storyteller, and now here he is, telling a story in great detail to the Ewoks. And then Luke, just kind of walks out of the hut and everything, and Leia follows him, and he's asking, do you remember your mother? She says, just images. She seemed always sad. And then he says, I have no memory of my mother. I've never known her. And then he starts getting into, the Force is strong with my family. My father has it, I have it, my sister has it. And he's looking at her and he goes, yes, that's you. You're my sister. And she's like, for some reason, in some way, I've always known. And of course, he's like telling her that I have to go.
It might have been the whole kiss thing.
Yeah. But then she's like, I have to, why do you have to go, run away, hide? He's like, I have to face them, to end this once and for all. I know there's still good in him. So he walks away, Han comes out, he's like, trying to get the information out of what's going on, and she's like, I can't tell you, and she's just like, please just hold me, and And then next you know, Luke has surrendered himself to the Empire,
Yeah.
and he confronts his father and everything, and he's like, basically calling him father, and he's like, Vader's like, so you accepted the truth? And he says, I accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father. And you know, Vader shuts him up real quick and says, that name no longer has any meaning for me. So, you know, you can tell that it's real touchy to him, you know, that the past is really touchy to him, and then Vader's showing emotion, something you've never seen before.
Yeah.
So, then...
you start to really get the vibe that he is a father.
Yeah.
You know, that's what really hit home for me.
Oh, yeah. And then, you know, all of a sudden, you know, you get to see a bunch of moments, you know, where, you know, he finds out that he's got this lightsaber, and Vader's like, you are truly powerful as the Emperor has predicted. So finally, you know, Lando and them all show up and everything. They realize, you know, it's a trap and everything, and
Of course,
Luke is...
Admiral Akbar.
Yeah. And then Luke is there meeting the Emperor for the first time, you know, and then all of a sudden he's been tempting him and everything, and then him and Vader start fighting, you know, and to the Emperor's enjoyment and everything. And then so it's going back and forth, you know, there's the battle on Endor, you know, on the ground and everything, where Han and them are trying to shoot. And then, of course, you know, they get captured, you know, and then, you know, then all of a sudden, you know, the Ewoks show up, you know, and, you know, they're helping the rebels and everything.
Sorry, the best part of that was just Chewbacca in the AT-AT walk.
Oh, yeah, when he's swinging down and doing the Tarzan roar.
But the whole Ewoks beating the Empire, no.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden, you know, Leia, you know, they're trying to open the thing up, you know, because you know, R2's been short-circuited a little bit, you know, and then all of a sudden Leia gets shot in the arm, and then, you know, then there's the reversible roll and everything, when, you know, Han's holding him, and then the stormtrooper's like, freeze! And Leia's got her gun hidden, and Han Solo looks down at her and goes, oh, I love you, and she goes, I know. And then he moves, he shoots her, and then they got...
By the way, in that scene, a field is cops.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, if you don't look for it, you really won't see it, but, yeah.
But then all of a sudden you're going back, you know, Luke is, you know, trying not to fight his father with lightsabers, but he's trying to talk to him. And then, you know it's bantering back and forth, and then you go back and Lando and the fleet and everything realize that the shield's still up, and then they got this really cool scene, you know, where the Millennium Falcon is coming through a bunch of TIE fighters and everything, which I think was one of the coolest scenes out of Jedi and everything. It's a very monumental scene.
Yeah.
And just seeing all this, you know, imagery of the spaceship, you know, the war up in space, you know, you get to see Star Wars, you know, happening, a real war in space. And then all of a sudden, you know, find out that the Death Star is fully operational, and it's shooting at some of the rebel ships. And
which was one of the Emperor's pitches.
Yeah.
He basically told him that the Death Star was fully operational. Luke Skywalker would get to watch his friends die.
Yeah. And then finally, you know, while Luke's hiding and everything from Vader, you know, still trying to get his father to get the emotions of love back in him and everything, he, you know, on the ground and everything, they finally got the detonations charged and everything, and they blow up the shield generator, and then Lando's like, I told you my friend would do it and everything, and then they had this little Asian-looking thing, Liam Nunn is what his name was. Yeah. But, you know, he's like, you know, very stereotypical. I mean, it's almost near racist in that character out of any of the characters.
I don't know, you can't call Star Wars racist. There was only one black guy in it, you know.
But so, you know, while you're still in the Death Star, you know, Lando's like, you know, they all descend into the Death Star to destroy it, and then Luke's on, you know.
Which I thought was pretty cool. The way, you know, they went basically into the side of it.
Yeah.
And you could still see where it was under construction.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. And then Lando, you know, running out of space, the antenna gets knocked off, so you're thinking, oh boy, this is going to be a close call for the Millennium Falcon. And then all of a sudden, you know, later, you know, Luke is back on, you go back to Luke again and everything, and there's, you know, he's hiding and everything, and Vader's like, join me, you know. It's the only way to save your friends, and he's especially. And then Luke, you know, he senses what Luke's thinking and everything. He finds out, Vader finds out he has a daughter and everything. And he says, if you won't join me, perhaps she will. And that snaps Luke and everything. Yeah. Luke just gets up and he's, you know, with full force, he's all the anger he has to fight, you know, Vader and everything, and he basically, you know, makes him lose his balance, and he hits his lightsaber as much as he can, and he cuts off his hand.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know, the Emperor's like, good, good, and then Luke's there staring, you know, it's like, you know, he's all that hatred and everything, you know, you think he's about to turn to the dark side, and then he takes a look at his hand and looks at his father's hand, and he looks at the Emperor and says, I'll never join you. I'm a Jedi now, like my father before me. And he's
a really chilling line
yeah.
in that particular scene. It was just very well placed, very well done.
Yeah.
You know, Mark Hamill really nailed it on that.
Yeah, and then the Emperor just looks, so be it,
yeah.
Jedi.
Yeah.
And then, you know, of course, you know, if you will not be turned, you'll be destroyed. And he starts shooting Force lightning.
Yeah.
And Luke's being, you know, electrocuted to death and everything. And then this whole, you know, this time, you know, Vader's staring and looking and everything. Then all of a sudden, you know, as soon as he's looking down, he's looking back and looking over, and he picks up the Emperor and everything, and the Force lightning is striking him, and the Emperor, and he throws the Emperor over this side and everything into a ventilation thing, and, you know, the Emperor is dead, you know, Vader's collapsing and everything, and Luke's trying to help him up, and then all of a sudden, you know, now that Lando's inside,
yeah.
you know, they finally get to the main power generator, and they able to, you know.
Yeah, it caused the chain reaction for the explosion.
Yeah, him and Wedge Antilles exploded, and they get out and everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, but then going back, Luke is trying to, you know, get Vader to the shuttle and everything, and then Vader's like, will you please take this mask off? You know, and then he takes the mask off, and, you know, revealing that, you know, behind this dark figure is just an old man.
That was one of the, I'd say probably the biggest humanizing moment for Vader, the fact that, I believe the line he said was, I want to see you with my own eyes.
Yes.
And it just, it was that moment where he was the father that he, you know, told Luke, you know, I'm your father. He
Yeah.
became that father figure.
Yeah, and he's like, tell your sister, you know, you're right, you know, tell your sister you're right, and there, he dies.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see, you know, Lando and them are trying to get out, and then there's like, you know, this split second, the fire comes out of this hole, and then the Millennium Falcon shoots out, and everybody's celebrating, and then sudden Luke gets out just at the nick of time, and then finally the coolest, you know, explosion, you know, is the Death Star blowing up and everything, and then this, you know, then everybody looks up, you know, Han's like bandaging Leia's arm, and they look up and everything, they see this explosion in the sky, and, you know, he's like, I'm sure Luke wasn't on that thing when it blew. And if you want, and he basically says, if he comes back and you have feelings for him, I won't be in the way.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, it's nothing like that. He's my brother. And then Han's like, oh,
yeah.
You know.
Green light.
Yeah. So, and then you cut back and everybody's celebrating. And, you know, if you look at the special editions, you know, they go back to all the planets from every other movie and everything. And, you know, everybody's celebrating on Endor. And then Luke comes back, you know, and everybody's hugging. You know, and celebrating, then Luke, you know, kind of looks away and he sees Obi-Wan, Yoda, and then emerging is Anakin and everything, that Anakin is redeemed, and, you know, he found redemption through his children, and that he has balanced the Force, he has destroyed the Sith.
Yeah.
So, but all in all, this movie, you know, in quick summary and everything, it wasn't as great as Jedi, as Empire, but it was a great movie, a great finale, a final conclusion to this saga, or to this trilogy. I cannot wait for Episode 7, Force Awakens. It's, you know, it comes out early on the 17th and worldwide on the 18th. I highly recommend.
Oh yeah.
Real quickly and everything, here's some footage from the Christopher parade that happened just recently. It was Star Wars themed, and so go ahead and take a real quick look at this footage. Okay, well, once again, I want to thank Brooding Tom at Yahoo, at YouTube.com. Watch his videos and see him have this. And as I said in the last video, this is Paul's birthday or Christmas present.
Yeah, hopefully not birthday.
Yeah.
If I was born on Christmas, there'd be a problem.
Yeah. But I just also want to wish my son's birthday, Asher, just turned 12 years old. If you look down, he got a Millennium Falcon Lego set and everything. He's already put that thing together. Smart kid. So I love you, Asher.
Do the figures fit in it?
The Lego figures, yes they did.
Yes.
So again, I appreciate you guys watching all 6 episodes of this. We're going to have reaction videos for standing in line for episode 7, and we're going to have our big review after we've both seen the movie. That will be probably on the following Sunday. So please, again, thank you so much. Click like, click subscribe, and share all these videos. Just share all of them and everything. I appreciate you watching. And once again, may the Force be with you.